Hi everybody, Scott here. It's been some time since I've made a video, and this video might be a little bit different to the ones I normally make on personality type, just a little bit I suppose. My wife and I have gotten into I guess you could say it's a form of gardening called permaculture, and essentially what it is the principles are earth care, people care, fair share, and it's really using renewable resources on the property, harvesting water, building soil, creating and designing a landscape where it really takes care of itself. You could almost say a bit like maybe the way you might picture the Garden of Eden, where, hopefully there's not wind in the microphone, where it takes very little effort to get a good yield from the garden, vegetables, fruit, and so on. Let me just unravel myself from my dog. And what interested me about it was I just like the idea of like harvesting water and then watering your fruit and vegetables, and then eating your fruit and vegetables, and that sort of thing. And one of the other main attractions was essentially getting out of the rat race, getting out of that mainstream world culture and living simply, growing as much as you can for yourself, and not be so tied to the world system, which you could say as an infj, I'm a bit allergic to it. I just find it, some people get in it and thrive in it, and other people get in it and have to put up with it as almost like a second job. When it comes to people, if you can consider, like, use the idea of people are their own garden or their own landscape, I naturally understand that space. When I talk to people, I get a pretty clear idea of the landscape of their soul, the landscape of their lives, the things that are going on in there, and having an ability to help people tend to that landscape and tend to the garden. It comes naturally, and of course I've spent most of my life either directly or indirectly focusing on areas of psychology and people and helping and this sort of thing. When it comes to the garden, it's a blank slate. And so there's been this interesting tension for me where I'm super passionate about the idea of creating like a home oasis, a landscape that is rich with life, cooling the property, growing their own vegetables, solar panels, harvesting water, and all of that sort of stuff, like this sort of ideal environment. There's such a passion to do it, but such an inability to do it at the same time. And I was thinking that permaculture, for me, is like having a relationship. Now I say this in jest, I say this to help explain something. It's not coming from a place of judgment. That my relationship with the landscape of the property, the garden, is like a relationship with an ESTP, in that I find myself drawn and really curious and curious to understand it, but when I get too close, it just doesn't work out. It's very hard. And while I've had some success in permaculture, I've done a certain amount of work already, there's so many fails. There's so much things we've planted, or things I've planted that haven't worked out. Putting plants in probably before I should, and spending most of my time watering them, like just breaking the rules of permaculture, where you're supposed to, put 100 hours of research in for 1 hour of work, and I think it's been well and truly the other way around. So there's this desire to conquer it. There's this desire to understand nature and the systems of nature and gardening and how to position things and all that. But there's a part of me that's just not very good at it. Really not very good. Like when it comes to people, I hear a new concept, I hear a new idea, a new way of seeing things from a people perspective, from a psychological perspective. For the most part, it goes in and it stays there, and it's available to me later on in some other capacity. But I find permaculture a bit like statistics. Like, it doesn't matter how much I focus on it, it's hard to embed the knowledge. And there's just so much to learn. I mean, to cut myself some slack, I've only been focusing on this for the last couple of years. From an infj perspective, there is this love-hate sort of idea with nature. Like, I want to create this ideal environment around our property. And I think it just touches in on that sort of infj idealist, that idea of almost creating a Garden of Eden type environment where you don't have to put a lot of effort in to get a good yield and the property working for you rather than against you. But at the moment, it's still working against me. It's like that. There's a Good Will Hunting movie where Will's talking to his girlfriend, and he's got this photographic memory, and she asks him how he does it, and he talks about some piano player just looked at a keyboard and he just knew how to play it. And he said when it came to reading and remembering, he could just play. And when it comes to people, when it comes to understanding the inner landscape of people, I can just play. I get it. It works. It's my strength. It's who I am. But I'm not going to give up on this permaculture idea. As much as there are times where I just want to pack it in. And maybe people that are there'll be INFJs that are in relationships. Don't give up. I think while it's hard, while it's not ideal, maybe you can create a Garden of Eden if you just takes that conscious effort from both parties to make it work. And I think the garden is really giving me a lot of feedback, and the feedback is sometimes positive and sometimes negative. And I've got to learn from that. I've got to learn from the information that the garden is feeding back to me when I make a change to it, when I try and add something to it. But it requires a lot of conscious effort, and it's conscious effort that sometimes I don't want to put in. It's tiring, and I want to just what's the word for it? Pack it in. Think, I won't bother. Just a sec. But it's that sort of push-pull. After a while, I sort of regain some confidence. I go back in there and I try again. So it's been interesting just observing me being really, really passionate and interested and spending lots and lots of hours on the garden and not feeling like I'm getting anywhere at times and not feeling like I'm building a particularly good relationship with it. And I'm sure a lot of INFJs that are in relationships could fully appreciate that, and vice versa, of course. And I guess, I think I've shared the solution already, but just to present it as a solution or as a strategy is listen to the feedback. I think we can be, as people, we can ignore the feedback. We can be like, no, it has to be this way. Like with me in the garden, I'm like, it's giving me feedback saying certain things aren't growing. Like I put these things called lily pillies as a bit of a hedge. And I spent all summer, 35, 40 degrees Celsius, I think that's around 110 degrees Fahrenheit, watering those things every day over summer, and they ended up dying anyway. They weren't the right tree. And probably didn't have very good soil and all sorts of things. And that was very discouraging. And anyway, the feedback was my strategy wasn't working. I needed to adopt a new strategy and ultimately get different sort of plants. And so of course, went for more hardy natives that handle the heat that we can get up here. And I think that's a strategy for INFJ, ESTP, and any opposite type relationship where listen to the feedback, don't ignore the feedback, because we can be like, no, I want it this way. I want this to be like this. I want it my way. So the garden's saying, you're not going to have it. It's not happening. And we either keep planting lily pillies expecting them to grow, or we plant something else and get something out of our effort. And in relationship, I think that's exactly the same. We need to listen to the feedback. We need to accept the feedback and talk in a different way, respond in a different way, interact in a different way, listen in a different way. And of course, if we listen to that feedback and respond differently, we may end up with the kind of, or close to, the ideal connection or relationship we're looking for. So anyway, I hope that video is helpful. It's good to be back. Hopefully I can get to a place where I'm making more frequent videos, and welcome to all the new subscribers. I am a counsellor and MBTI practitioner. I work online, mostly via Skype or the phone. If you're interested in looking more into that, feel free to send me an email. The email is in the description. My website is on the screen somewhere. And see you in another video.